Alrighty, y'all. It is that time. Hello, and welcome to Recovering Addict. This is a live stream, and we're coming to you from the heart of Utah, and we are RA, and we are a nonprofit dedicated to standing shoulder to shoulder with those fighting with the toughest battles of their life. And that battle is against addiction. We are a relapse prevention program, and we are long-term, and guess what? We are totally free.
Yeah.
Locally here in Utah, we gather every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 to 8 at the Iron House Gym located at 155 14th Street in Ogden, Utah. The first hours we dedicate it to our bodies, strengthening our physical resilience as we work out together. In the last hour, we unite our minds and spirits, sharing and supporting each other in our group therapy sessions. We are a therapeutic community, and like I said before, the best thing of all is we are absolutely free, and you can join us today and stay as long as you want. But this stream right now is for all those who can't be with us physically, but they share our dedication to breaking free from the chains of addiction. It is for everyone looking for a beacon of hope, support, and connection in their journey towards long-term sobriety. Together, we're going to explore the latest news. We're going to deep dive into the intricacies of addiction and expand our spiritual horizons. And we're going to equip ourselves with practical health and fitness tips, because that's what we do. Remember, this isn't just a live stream. It's a lifeline, and we are here with you every step of the way. And guess what our motto is? We recover better together. So take a deep breath, ready your hearts and minds, because together, we're not just surviving, we are thriving. So welcome to the Recovering Addict live stream. So let's embark on this journey of healing and empowerment together. I'm your host, LT Weaver, and so what qualifies me to get up here and speak on addiction? Well, 2 times in my life, I've hit rock bottom, meth and alcohol. I got felonies to prove it. Oh man, later in life, I had to go to rehab, 6 months in an intense outpatient program, 5 nights a week. NA, AA programs, and took me a long time, and I still didn't pull my head out of my ass for another year and a half, I don't think. But that's me, y'all. So we got some special guests tonight, and I will let them introduce themselves.
I'm Jen. I'm a recovering addict.
Oh.
Who are you?
I'm Mike. I'm a recovering addict. I've been 20 plus years in prison, and started a group called Actively Sober here in Ogden. Awesome. And met these guys, and I want to come help these guys out.
Yeah, so we do a lot of recovery stuff, and here in Utah and Weber County and Utah in general, I think kind of across the country, but recovery is becoming an amazing thing of community and connection. Here in Weber County, that's where I'm from, Ogden, Weber County, love it. And we are building this network of recovery programs that are just working together. And so that's how we met. And they showed up at our gym and hung out, and then Jen here told us her story. And I was like, whoa. And I want to focus on one part. So stay tuned, because you're going to want to hear this one part. And it reminds me of step 8 and 9, if any of you out there do the 12-step programs, about making amends. And if you notice, I titled this program about making amends, like what it really means and what you are prepared to do and take as a consequence of your actions in making these amends. And that's one thing that really stood out. So we'll get to that part of the story, so don't turn away, because you're going to want to hear that. But first, we're going to talk about Jen and have her give us a brief overview of her life, her story, addiction, and what led her into recovery. So go ahead, Jen.
Okay. Well, I grew up here. I'm from right here, and I grew up in Roy. When I was younger, we moved around a little bit. Parents got divorced. I was a straight A student. Played sports, softball, volleyball, basketball, all on the way to the right track. You know, I had a good home. And then I don't know what it was back then. I was about 13, and I first started smoking marijuana. Tried meth for my first time at around the same time. And then just slowly I was around the wrong crowd. And I kind of was somebody that hung out with everyone, you know. So it was yeah.
I was too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, I had the good friends, I had the bad friends. My good friends were watching me go down a bad road. I didn't realize then, when it was just more about being fun and that it would lead into a lifelong struggle for me. And when I was about 14, I ran away from home.
Where are you living at this time? Did I miss that part?
I'm from Roy.
Oh, Roy.
So I grew up in Roy.
Okay. Roy, Utah, people. Just
Yeah, this is like the
up the
main
street.
part when I was like a teenager, kind of the grunge era, Nirvana,
Oh,
rock
yeah.
and roll. So I
Cool.
got kind of fell into that. Yeah, for sure. But back then it was kind of fun. But again, I never realized it would lead me into years and years of a lifelong struggle, or nor where that would take me as a person. So definitely the route of me going up took a turn for the worst, and I just fell into it. So at 14, I had a bad anger problem. I mean, you wouldn't know it meeting me or looking at me, but I was just angry, and I don't know what it was, something at home, whatever. But I ended up getting kicked out of the house. Well, first I ran away, and then I actually got in a pretty bad argument with my parents, and they kicked me out. So they put me in a rehab. So I was there. And then when I got out, I got in another big fight with them because I was kind of out of control. And they ended up just sending me out to California to live with my dad. So I lived with him, and he has his own things, So that was kind of a whole nother story.
Did you know your dad pretty good at this point, or you
Um,
had to get to know him out there?
I kind of got to know him. We would go out to California every other holiday, every other summer kind of thing. But it was more of my aunts that were kind of doing that. My dad's, he's got some mental issues and things. So. But he was a little wild. So living with him, the thing that got me connected to the drugs once I left here was the school system's different there. So I was short on credits. So I ended up in a continuation school, and it was right in with these kids that there was one kid that used to be on Full House.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Which
and it was the brother's girlfriend, the blondie. It was the older brother's girlfriend in a couple of the episodes. I went to school with her.
Oh,
I didn't like her
wow.
very much, but
Cameron,
something like that. I mean,
Kurt
Kurt
Cameron,
Cameron, yeah.
his brother.
Kurt Cameron, the brother,
and,
and
the
then
sisters, yeah.
the girlfriend.
Candace.
Something like that. But her real name was Christine, if I remember right. That was years ago. So anyway, out there as a teenager, kind of fell back into the group there, and selling drugs and doing drugs and partying, and then I caught my first felony. Was getting up for school one day, and my dad had searched my backpack, and so he called the cops. That's when I caught my first felony.
What was in the backpack?
An 8-ball meth.
Oh, dang.
Now, just a quick one before that, I had taken a car for my work, and the car broke down. It was on the holiday, and I was going to get that same bag of meth. This was a couple weeks before that, and I ended up with a joyriding that night because the cars broke down, and I ended up getting stuck, and a cop pulled me over. So I got the joyriding, and then I got the first felony. I was 15.
Wow.
A little wild, Went to rehab for about, it was 18 months. It was longer because I was doing really good. I took over. I was about to graduate, but then they caught me doing what I was doing behind closed doors. So that was a whole nother thing. And then I ran. The rehab was at the place where Terminator 2 was filmed when they go get Linda Hamilton.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that with the roses? He has
Yeah.
a shotgun in the roses.
So I ended up telling them all to kind of fuck off and walked out, and they couldn't touch me because I was a minor. So then the next day, my counselor found me drinking a 40 on the side of the road with a bum. Said, maybe you should come back. And I said, I guess I should. So anyway, kind of fast forward, about 18, my dad was, not the best. He was an alcoholic, a pill popper, kind of. He was suicidal. He pulled a gun on me at one point.
Wow.
So I had called my mom, and I was like, can I come home? And so they drove out and picked me up. So 18, come back, got involved with my my junior high sweetheart that I had before I had left, and moved out with him. And we're using, and we ended up, I started to get my life together a little bit. So I always had, it was like a wave for me. It'd go up, and then I'd get it together for a little bit, and then it'd go back down. But anytime I go up, I go way up. So it's like I could lose everything in 3 months, and I can get it all back in 6 months plus some. I've always been that way. But there's some really smart people that are doing dumb things.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned that about myself. That's one thing I learned.
Agreed, yeah.
But, okay, where am I at? I moved back. I ended up buying a house.
So how old are you at this time? So you
I'm in my
went out-
20. I'm 20, 19, 20.
Okay, so you've been already catching felonies,
Yep.
caught with meth,
Yep.
in and out of a rehab half-heartedly.
Hmm.
Family from Utah's worried about you, so they call you back.
Yeah.
Okay, similar story to mine because I moved out to Michigan when I was 13,
Okay.
and by the time I was 15, I was wild, like doing all kinds of drugs, acid, all kinds of stuff. And by the time I was 17, 18 in Michigan,
Right.
I'd been arrested a couple of times. My brother from Utah,
Right.
get your ass home. What are you doing? So I
Right.
come back out here and live with my brother. That's funny.
Yeah, and all the other drugs you mentioned, those are part of the story.
Oh,
but
yeah. Whatever's
know,
in front of you,
if,
right?
if we were going in detail, I could give you, all that, whatever it
Yeah.
was. I had some limits. I didn't go on some of those roads, but so yeah, I'm about 20. I buy a house with a high school sweetheart. That kind of I was clean at the time we bought the house. He relapsed when it was kind of behind my back thing. I called him on it one day. One day he came home and I'd never been hit, punched. He beat me to where I had to go to the hospital.
Jeez.
I had like a footprint in my back. So that was my first, unfortunately not my last domestically violent relationship, but that's kind of, I think, what really kicked off my spiral downward.
Mm.
Well, he moved in a friend of his, and me and this friend, this was after we kind of were breaking up. Well, me and this friend, fell in love, whatever, and I ended up having children with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was pretty wild, he was abusive as well. When we had our kids, the abuse was like, he liked to hit me or fight with me. And a lot of it, the fighting was about, I was just so struggling with myself, as I didn't want to be this person that I was, because I knew inside there was this whole other person that I was just, bringing down with the drugs, holding myself back. And then all of a sudden I get pregnant. So DCFS stepped in a couple times because the cops were called. He's got some charges on him for that. I did get one charge out of that because I threw his clothes out on the porch one day, and they got me on a criminal mischief for that.
Yeah.
So that was rough. I didn't have a lot of money. I was struggling fighting with the baby dad. The state stepped in. They took our son when he was a baby. And now the funny thing is, in speaking about Utah, is back then there wasn't the resources or the compassion or understanding for the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took my son originally to leave, I went to a domestic violence shelter, and first, I still don't know to this day, but that's where they came and took my kid from me.
Mm.
And so I didn't understand why. Like, I had gone for help. And I'm not saying anything against shelters, because they do help.
Sure.
But in my situation, I don't know if it's because I probably looked like maybe I had done some drugs, or I don't know what it was.
That stigma is still a huge thing right now. And if you think back on the history of addiction, right? 1935, AA,
Yeah.
the big books produced.
Right.
Everything's anonymous back then. That's only in the 30s, right? And then
Yeah.
up until the 60s, they're still doing lobotomies on people. That's
Right.
where they put that metal thing above your eye, whack, stir your brains, and cured, right? They did thousands of them.
Right.
And that's not very long ago. And so here we are, fast forward into 2023, 50 years later or so.
Yeah.
And we're barely starting to get a grasp on what helps people with addiction. And you know who's doing all the help?
The addicts.
Peer supports. People who have been there, done that are the ones helping. And that's what's so awesome about what you're doing, what we're doing,
Right.
is we are able to see and help. So, I understand wait a minute, I'm here for help. And all of a sudden they think they're doing the best thing because some psychologist read a book and had a theory and it didn't work,
Right.
That's awesome. I just love that the stigma is changing with what's
I'm
going
so
on.
glad for that, and that'll come in later on in the story when we talk about the reason I'm here,
Yeah.
But so that was hard. That really broke me. I was young. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't have good coping skills. Felt like I was in a situation that was hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
And that really broke me. So I spiraled out for a bit after that, and then me and this abuser decided, we're going to try to make it work and fix it and get the kid back. So we did. We went through drug court, got him back. Once again, I got life back. We had a normal little thing going on, and then he lost his job. And when we were in drug court, I got pregnant again. So now here comes son number 2. So he lost his job, and I was trying to hold it together with both of them. And then I was clean at this time, But I got a phone call at work one day, and they said, "You need to come home right now, or we're going to take your kids." And I was like, "What?" And then what had happened was, because he had told me a whole nother story about losing his job. Well, what really happened is he had quit his job because he was using again. So what had happened is he was supposed to be watching the kids, save me some money because daycare's, outrageous. Well, he had fallen asleep with the door unlocked. I guess he had a pile of drugs on the table with the kids there. My one son was in his crib 'cause he's too little. The other one, my oldest son, had wandered outside in his diaper. So I get the phone call, and they said, "You come now, or this is over, right?" So I rushed from work, and I get there, and they tell me, "If you don't leave, then we're going to take them." And I said, "Fine." And I took my little truck, and my truck at the time, it was an old Bronco too. And the starter had gone out, so I could only park on the hill, so I could pop start it. So I was like, whatever, but I made it happen.
I've had a car like that.
So it was just like struggle after struggle, and and I worked. I just didn't have a good paying job that really was. You didn't have the help that they have now. Like some people, they have all their bills paid and all this. I just needed a little help with the daycare. That was killing me. But anyway. So I went to another domestic violence shelter. I stayed there about a month. I kept the same job I had. And then I got me and the kids an apartment. And we were doing really good for a while. And he wasn't around. I didn't let him come around. And then one day he called me crying, saying that, and he was really messed up. I mean, he was strung all the way back. And he called me crying, and he's like, "I don't want to be like this." So once again, I opened the door again. And that was a grave mistake. Now, I didn't think that decision would cost me the years that I've lost, and if I get emotional, guys, it's only 'cause it's real.
Yeah, it is real.
But anyway, so I let him come back again, and then the fighting started again, 'cause I'd be like, well, I mean, we got kids, let's get it together, and then I would maybe relapse with him sometimes, but then I'd be struggling with that 'cause I didn't want that life, but it was just there, and then it really is our emotions that I think tear us down the most.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like such a failure. I had such this bright future ahead of me. And when I was younger, I didn't see it. And now I'm looking back going, it's just, I don't understand.
Right.
But
I like to ask this question to a lot of people that are in recovery now. Would you go back and erase anything in your past? Or would you erase your past if you could?
I wouldn't erase all of it. But the one decision I would erase would be the one of when I let him walk back in that door. That's my biggest regret.
That's a good kind of a reminder to people in their boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And
in my heart, naturally, I want to be bitter and angry and hateful, but I just am not. I've tried to be that, and I just am not. I can't. I don't hate him. I don't hate. Hate is such a strong, powerful word that people throw around, and I still can't feel it for him. I mean, I'd like to, but I could feel it for myself.
Right.
Not anybody else that might have been doing terrible shit to me, and then I was allowing it. So it was the fact that I was allowing these things to continually happen in my life, and that's what I was mad about. So it was all internal damage, and then I would just feed that damage and make it, it was like I was punishing myself at that point.
Yeah.
Well, the state stepped in again because we got in a big fight, and then they said, "Well, this is pretty much it." So I had to hand him over.
Your kids?
Yeah.
For the second time now.
For the second time.
Okay.
So, I remember the day I did it. I remember the conversation I had with my son.
How old were the kids?
They were 5 and 3, and
that's hard.
Yeah, I mean they were very young, and I felt like such a failure. Well, after that happened, I could say that maybe me and their dad had a pretty big altercation, but he didn't really fight back in the altercation. He just kind of stepped back. So I think he kind of knew. So anyway, after that happened, I really spiraled out after that, and then I just to kind of fast forward through some of those years from I was 25 at that time. So from 25 to 29, so maybe 24. Yeah, 25 to 29. I was just kind of running around, the streets out here, and spiraling more and more further away, and then I would kind of go do visits when they would let me. But then this is the visit that made it so it was like, they thought that it was like, it was over after that. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And what happened was the day I went to go visit my children on Easter, the night before I went to a dope house and I got drugged in my drink. And so I didn't wake up till the next day. And then I was held hostage for 14 hours.
Jeez.
So I missed the visit.
Yeah.
And after that, it was just in and out of jail. I caught a couple charges, went to jail. Then I get out and try to get it together. The first time I was on probation for possession, I got out and I really didn't have anywhere to go. My mom was kind of out of the picture. She didn't really want to intermingle in my life. My dad, not the best option because he had just moved back here from California. He's trying to figure things out. So I kind of just got on the street. So I ended up, of course, relapsing. I went to a dope house. That was the first place. Went back to jail. And then it'd always be like a year. I would do a year. If I'm going to jail, I'm going to be there for a year. I get out. I'd have a job. Well, the last time, this was in my second felony. So I have a possession. Then I have another one. A second felony. And it was always a crime of desperation.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I was out like, I'm going to go do this. It was like, oh, shit, I'm in this terrible situation. I just end up, and then I was like, oh, is that someone's purse with money? Like, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I always felt bad about it. But the thing is my higher power steps in immediately when I'm making a bad decision, and I get arrested.
Oh, whack.
So if I do drugs, I break out in handcuffs.
Yeah.
I'm allergic.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just not, it don't work for me because I'm not meant to be there.
Right.
You know, but maybe I will. You know, I helped some people. I learned some things. I definitely wouldn't change what I learned and who I am. So, after all that, I got out after another year in jail. Was living with my dad for a minute, and then he's a little narcissistic. He's got his issues, and I said, hey, I want to pay the rent. I made like I don't know, like $13 an hour. You know, I was working at a Jimmy John's,
Yeah.
but it was doing what it needed to. And I told him, can you just give me till next week? And he was like, fine. He was like, talking all this shit. You're not going to make it anyway. Like, that's how my dad is. Well, then I talked to my brother. He called me out of the blue and he said, Jen, I think you should leave. I don't think you're going to do good there. So they came and picked me up. And I went over to my mom's. My mom didn't really have room. My brother was like, here, you can sleep on my floor. So I'm like sleeping in my little brother's room on the floor.
Whoa.
Trying to get it back together. Now, in between the times I was in jail, I would talk to baby daddy, who the kids were taken from him too. His grandfather got them. The only reason his grandfather got them is because my mom didn't have the room.
Mm.
Well, little did I know that happening, that they were going to block me from talking to them.
Sure.
Like I was the only one that was a party to any
You're
of
the
it.
evil one.
Yeah, I'm the evil one, and probably because I went to jail.
Yep.
Yeah, and they told them I was out beating up cops and all that. That wasn't the case.
Right.
But they had to make me out to be the bad guy.
Of course.
So in between I would see the kids here and there, but the last time I got out, he called me and he was like, "Oh, you want to see him?" And then from this point in 2010 for the next 13 years of my life, this is where this part started.
Is this the moment in recovery, like?
This is the moment where I was like, I have to do something drastic to
Okay.
change what is going on in my life.
This is your turning point.
This is kind of.
Kind of.
It's starting to the turning, right?
Yeah.
It definitely started me on a path that you wouldn't expect.
Okay.
So he was like, "Oh yeah, you want to see him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all excited." I'm like, yeah, "Of course I do." And then he did it to me a couple times, but he would take me in the car, and then he would take me to like do some other dumb shit that only a tweaker would do. Right? And I'd be like, "Well, I thought," and then it was this game to him, and then it got funny to him, and then it was like, I was like, "This is abusive, and this is terrible," but I would always sucker into it. And then that wouldn't be the end result. It'd be like, "Oh, let's go steal railroad ties." I'm like,
Tweaker shit.
all right, tweaker shit. Like,
Yeah.
you need money that bad. I mean, is this car stolen? I'm wondering.
Right.
So this was my turning point. Shortly after the last time I did see them, I was kind of bounced around house to house. Now, mind you, I've never been homeless. I always could go home. My mom always has a couch. I didn't want to bring it around her. I don't want my family to see me like that. They already knew enough. So anyway, I met this guy, and he was all, oh, just sweet, and he was doing these sweet things, and I was like, oh, maybe this is, and of course met him. He was using too, and he's like, well, I want to get it together, and I'm like, well, telling him my situation, and I said, like, I'm on probation right now. I had missed a couple probation visits because from when my dad kicked me out, and I left my mom's house, kind of thing, because I had relapsed, and that's all more details, but to kind of go through it more. So I called my probation officer, and I met this guy, but I called him, and I was going to get myself into a program, which they used to have one at the Ogden Rescue Mission.
Mm-hmm.
But come to find out, that wasn't the best program, but I was trying to get in there and be like, well, maybe this will save me from them just throwing me back in jail. And called my PO, and he was like, well, you're not really worth it, so you might as well just turn yourself in. So when he told me that,
You're not worth it?
I was like, this isn't going to work for me. I don't know what else to do. I can just go to prison pretty much for something like I didn't kill nobody, you want to lock me up in a cell, and I've asked for help. I even asked for help back with the kids in DCFS and all that. They actually turned me away at one point. So anyway, I left with this guy, and he said we can go to Colorado and get clean. I have a brother there. His brother left from here as well years ago. Years before that, he had like 18 years clean. So I was like, cool, this might be something I could. And my plan was to go, save my money, and come back, pay the fines, whatever. If they're gonna put me in jail, maybe I can get a lawyer. But on the way out, we caught a charge with my ex-husband. We caught another felony that I had warrants on. So I was identified in the crime, but I didn't ever see a warrant or anything. So we're in Colorado. Well, he gets really drunk one night and commits domestic violence on me. A pretty serious one. We were working at this little biker bar. That was pretty fun.
Working at the biker bar?
Hey, I never knew I could karaoke until I worked at that bar. I promise you. So anyway, I'm working there. I got this whole plan in my head. I'm going to go back. I'm going to find the kids. I'm going to make it all better. Well, that happened, and he ended up getting arrested. So I was like looking at his family. I'm like, don't even know these people. I'm like, so I'm guessing I got to leave. They were like, no. I'm like, okay, cool. So I got a really good job from the biker bar. I ended up being an executive chef at this little bistro wine bar, pretty fancy.
Very cool.
And I took culinary when I was in the rehab. That's something I didn't mention. I got my culinary degree when I was in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I graduated, got my culinary degree, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this great job, and it paid well, and he was in the prison. They had extradited him back for the domestic violence. So the charge that we caught on the way out that we were both a party to, they extradited him. And then they're like, where's Jen? Like, I'm so hard. He was like, oh, no, So I ended up being okay for a while, which I think obviously was saving grace for me. Because going back, I think I would have just went in prison, got out, and done the same thing.
Cycle over.
All over. So... but yeah, so that happened, and then I did pretty good, and then he got out. We relapsed. Things started happening again, and then eventually, after it got really bad with him, because we did good for a while, we got an apartment, and then things fell apart again, and he was extremely abusive. This man made me fear for my life. So I got to the point, and I'm in Colorado. I'm feeling alone. It's wintertime. I have a truck, and I'm just like, I got to leave.
And you're sober? And
I'm not during this time. This is because we were kind of up and down. We got sober. We got an apartment. Then we got high again. He was all about hiding dope from me, and then I would find things around the house.
Oh, wow.
And then he'd be like, oh, well, that's yours. I'm like, hold up. So, he was very narcissistic, too. He would yell at me and tell me something and then say I said it. I'm like, it was like just a mind fuck big time.
Yeah.
But I felt so trapped because I was far from home. I had no money. My truck, it was doing okay. So anyway, I leave one night and I never come home. I told him I'm gonna go get some shit, and I never came home. Well, I finally did try to come back just to get my stuff, and I was like, I'll live in my truck before I live another minute with that man. And the day I went back, he was in the backyard, and I was going to go through the fence, but they had locked me out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, fuck that, I'm hopping the fence. So I go to hop over the fence, and he's on the other side with a gun.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, are you... I blew me away. So I got pistol whipped, just trying to get my stuff. I just want to get my stuff. He was freaking out, and I almost feel like this man was so far from himself that he wasn't even a human anymore. it was that bad. And I was like, and I told him I never want to do this again. Let me just get my stuff. I go. I don't care. You can keep the rest. I just want some clothes. And he made it so hard for me to get the little garage. And then finally I was like, fuck it, you can have it. And when I left, I was beat up. I had my face on the whole side right here was like just a goose egg from where he hit me with the gun. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to die. I was thinking that. It's me or him.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew that he wouldn't do it because he would do it in a fit of rage. And I think that goes a lot with relationships and addiction. And part of the reason why they say it is good to, in your first, small time of getting clean, to be careful in relationships. Because as far as you can go downhill, and mine were always like, we were getting high, and then I'm like, oh, here, let's get life better together.
Yeah.
And it was usually probably one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
They're half-assed because they're like, oh, hey, they want to be with me or whatever I brought to the table.
Yep.
So they would take advantage of that. But, okay, so I left. I'm on the streets for a little bit. My truck breaks down, and I meet these people, and they want to take me on a journey. They had this little scam going, so I was like, fuck it, I'll go. I didn't have nothing to lose.
What was their scam?
So they had this raffle tickets. They had this fake like carnival game in a little trailer that they towed, and they had these gifts. And they would we would give raffle tickets out, free raffle tickets. But we'd be looking for people that look like maybe they sell drugs.
Okay.
And we'd get that guy, and because he'd be willing to gamble.
Yeah.
And then they do their little thing. And my job was to get the guy. So I'd be like, where are the doughboys at? I'd be looking for them.
Yeah.
So that was like, that happened. And I did it one day. I made $300. I was like, cool, man. I mean, I'll go talk to all these people all day. I'm like, and the kids and all that still in my mind. But I'm so far from that at this point that, I mean, I'm just trying to, I don't even know what to do with myself.
Straight survival mode.
It's all the way.
Yeah.
So I go with these guys, and they're like, yeah, we're going to go across the country. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And he goes like, you're going to make the money. So in my mind, it was the money. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make this money. Then we're going to come back, and then I can go back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they ended up leaving me in California. So we got in a fight. Like, it was over or whatever. And then I was like, well, fuck you guys. And I'm like, fuck all you guys, really. And I got left there, so I walked away from them. That's what happened. And then, of course, they left without me. So here I am in Buena Park, kind of by Knott's Berry Farm, right? I'm just looking at this place. I'm looking around, and the world felt so big, and I was so small. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, out of all the other rock bottoms I've had, that really was it. So I didn't know what to do.
So Colorado, from the bar to Carney's selling raffle tickets, basically. You're in California. What are your options? The world's big and you're small.
I'm small. Well, my options in my mind was kill myself. The other option was I need to find a church. I need to talk to a bishop or something, try to get some help that way.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they got a program. Maybe they got something that's going to help me.
Yep.
In my mind, the first night, I didn't really know what to do. I was just kind of standing around. Now, what happened was I was standing at this gas station just like, okay. Just I don't have a phone. All my stuff was in their car, so I have nothing. Wow. And there was this guy, and he goes, you might not want to stay around here too long. This is a bad neighborhood. And I'm like, yeah, I figured. And he's like, yeah, like, you might want to go now. I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. So I just start walking down the road.
Yeah.
And I'm starving, and I promise you, I found the most beautiful orange tree hanging off just out of someone's yard. And that orange was the most delicious orange I've ever ate in my entire life. It was just sweet and juicy, and God put it on that tree for me to eat that night. So I just started walking down this street. Now, years ago, when I had got shipped out to California, I lived in L.A. County. I'm in Orange County, but I don't know where I'm at. I know I'm at Knott's Berry Farm, which I've been to once when I had visited one year. Mm-hmm. But I knew L.A., so I was like, maybe if I can just get to Torrance. So then the goal was I need to borrow a little change, try to get on a bus, right, and just try to get somewhere. And so I'm walking down the street, and I was like, visually, I think from the trauma, I was seeing a lot of things that really weren't there. Because at the time, I really wasn't on drugs, I didn't have any. So it was more this whole like mental breakdown, and I had a nervous breakdown when they took the kids, and that's a whole nother story on its own. But I was in total shock. And then I'm just thinking, how am I going to get myself out of this mess? So anyway, I promise you I did this. And it's kind of embarrassing, but I did it. I found a shopping cart, right? I always never was like the person out on the street. I never did that. I always had a car. That was my hustle. Or people just liked me, so they'd like to get me high, because they thought it was funny. But I found a shopping cart, and I rode that thing. I rolled that thing all the way down and up and over a hill. I rode on it like I was like a little kid, coming out of the front of the grocery store. That thing got me about 2 miles. Now, I don't know if that was a real viral video, some people driving by, but I promise you that it was. I looked crazy as hell that night. So, okay, this is the beginning of my recovery. So, I ended up getting to Torrance by some nice, good Samaritan guy. And I told myself, I need to meet God by the water. I felt like if I got to the ocean, I could cleanse myself and maybe leave something there, right? So I did. And it was weird because when I went there, I promise you, I dropped on my knees right in the ocean right there. It was like the water was coming up, and I was just there all by myself, just like in this other place. And at least I was in a familiar part of California. And then this guy comes up to me on the beach, and he's like kind of talking to me and, probably trying to hand on me, trying to get me high, whatever. And he did. I did get high with him, right? That kind of kept me going for the next little bit. Was hanging out with this dude, but he's like, hey, I know this pastor, and he helps people in your situation. This happens a lot. He goes, a lot of these people on their beach are from other places. They've come here. They've gotten stranded. So I was like, okay, cool. So some hope came in, but really that wasn't what he wanted, So I followed this guy around, and then finally I'm like, I got to break free from this dude. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I ended up meeting another homeless person on the street, and her name was Lily. And Lily was like hitting the lottery. She was like the most amazing woman. And Lily kind of followed me around. And Lily fell in love with Jen. Okay, so that was kind of the whole reason we got clicking. Because she was like, oh, what's up? Because I remember meeting her. She was wearing a flannel and like a construction outfit. Then she goes, hey, hold on, I got to go talk to my friend. She came back. She had her shirt open. And she had like a sports bra on. And she has like this amazing body, right? She was a butterface.
Everything looks good, Butterface.
She was banging hot, but the face, but she was so cool. Anyway, so I meet this amazing lady, and she takes me over to. I was like, dude, I just want a shower, like a real shower. And I said, and maybe a phone. Maybe I could call my family, because one number I've ever memorized is my mom's.
Yeah.
So we go over to her brother. She goes, if I go there, then my life's gonna change. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I'm an alcoholic, and I've been urban camping for about 10 months. That's what she called it, urban camping. I love it. So I'm like, okay. And she's like, but if I go there, I have to get sober. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, no, like I have to get sober for a little while. I'm like, well, is that what you want? She's like, no. I'm like, I just want a shower. She's like, all right, let's go. So she in her mind, I'm trying to look at her side. She in her mind made that decision that, okay, I'm going to get sober for this chick.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Lily, for that. So we get to her brother's. And mind you, we have a garbage sack. I don't know why every bum in California has a garbage sack full of pot, but they do. And they're broke as a joke. They ain't got no food or nothing, but they got a garbage sack full of weeds somewhere, stashed in a tree. I don't care, in a bush. So we get rid of that. She's like, my brother was not going to appreciate this. I'm like, okay, well, if we're doing this, let's do it. I'd be like, I told you. She knew my story. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Mm-hmm. So we go to her brothers, and they're kind of like, kind of being dicks about it at first. Like, we don't want some bud, you on the street, because they were in a recovery, and that was important to them. Well, they let me come in. And the lady, her name's Cindy. She was super sweet, and she was like, I told her my story. She goes, well, what are you gonna do? She's like, well, we could get you guys into a sober living or something. I said, let me just call my mom. Maybe they'll come get my ass, Now, I was in Colorado for about 3.5 years. Okay, so I got to California in 2017. Okay, yeah, 2017. Call my mom. I say, "Will you come get me?" I go, "Hey, I'm in California." So she already had I'm in Colorado and I just got married to some guy, but now she has I ran away from him and now I'm in California. She goes, "No, I am not coming to get you." I'm like, "Mom, I'm literally here with nothing, like on the streets." And she goes, "You better figure out why God took you there." I was like, "Fuck." Okay. So next day, luckily Cindy was connected with a place called Action Alliance. Orange County, California, recovery out there is huge. And they have lots of resources that Utah did not have. So that's why we'll get to that other part, me being back, is when I came back and seeing like what you got going on, what he's over here starting with Actively Sober, with going to recovery days and all that. So I was like, it made my heart happy because I wish that would have been the way it was then.
Right.
Well, so, so here it is, 2017. Here I am sitting in California, and I end up in a sober living, and that kind of, I didn't do good the first shot. I was there for a few months. Now I ended up being able to get my driver's license and getting everything set. I was riding a bike. I would ride a bike 17 miles all the way out to this place. I was working as a chef, but I was working for a staffing company. So they would send me out to like different universities, and I didn't have a car. And the bus, I could do the bus thing. But I would ride a bike. So I'd ride my bike, and it just felt so good. There was nights when I'd be coming home from work, and it'd be like I got 17 miles to get to where I'm going. But those nights of freedom on that bike was just like, it brought back the person I was before.
Yeah.
Like when I was a little kid and I would go out on my bike and I would just be riding.
Yep.
And I felt that again in my soul, and I felt free like that, and I wanted that freedom again. Yeah. So that was I think having to come so from the ground up like that was ultimately how I've got my recovery today. That was a good time in my life. So I was in the sober living, and then I ended up leaving that one shortly after. What happened was, one of the days I was riding my bike, this during the day, and my friend Lily, by the way, was doing good. She got in the sober living with me, so we went together. So that was kind of cool. But I was going to see her one day, and I got hit by a car, like physically. And I don't know, some superhuman shit or what, but I jumped right before it hit me. But it jarred me, so I don't know. I kind of feel like I didn't get hit. But I wore my Marvel shirt for like a week after that. The only thing I remember is this guy going, "Oh, fuck," like. And then I get up and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm bouncing around. I go, and he's like, "No, ma'am, I really think you're in shock." Like the bike is like fucking mangled. And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." No, I wasn't fine. Anyway, shortly after that, luckily, I called my mom, and now they're kind of with me in the recovery thing. They're still not going to come save me, but they're like, "Oh, that's good, because they've heard it before. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Let me know when you got a year clean, because I hadn't been able to make that since I was 13, besides the rehab, So, well, push comes to shove. We can fast forward. I kind of pulled myself out of that. Then when we come, they brought me out a truck, so now I have a vehicle. Brother had this old beater truck, and it was costing me more money. It'd break down every time I get somewhere. I'd be like, "Yeah, I got $1,000 in the bank," and then it would break down. I'd be like, "Fuck, there goes the money." So anyway, got myself in another vehicle, and then I met another guy, and this was my first healthy relationship. So I start seeing this guy. All in my head, I still am like, "Oh, the kids, I want to find the kids," all that. In the meantime, their dad's been calling me on Facebook over those years, like, "Oh, here, you want to talk to him? Oh, wait, no, you can't." Like shit like that. And I mean, it was a little worse than that, but just to keep it kind of this scenario of how that was still a part of everything. So I'd be begging and begging, and then he'd block me, so I can't contact anyone. Yeah. So, and nobody would return phone calls or whatever. It was just like I was this horrible person. But anyway, I met this guy. He was a really nice guy. We ended up being in a relationship. And he had been through his own thing. He was in prison for 4 years. Like he had 5 years clean when I met him. So he was doing some things. Anyways, we did our thing. And that gave me the basis, I think, he was a big part of my sobriety, but I was good without him. And that's, well, going into that relationship, one thing that I had found out from those nights of riding the bike by myself and being by the water when nobody else was there but me, like a little grain of sand, or just, that's what I felt like, a little grain of sand, because the world is so big, but yet it's so small at the same time. And the signs are everywhere. Things come to you and speak to you. And when you don't listen, bad things happen. And when you do, you can find things that you never expected. So, excuse me. So anyway, good relationship. He had a baby. So his baby was young. So basically, the time that I spent with my kids, I ended up spending with this little girl. Her name was Jasmine. And then the relationship kind of went stagnant. Now this is almost 6 years, right? So 5 years I was with him. And the whole time he was like, maybe you got to go find the kids and this, that. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that because, Facebook's only one thing. I don't know how to do that. He's like, well, maybe you got to go back and do it. And I'm like, yeah. And then he was like, I'll be there for you. And he knows my whole story. Like, if I go back, I'm probably going to go to prison. That was my thought. I have 2 felony warrants for 12 years for my arrest. Mm-hmm. One of them I was already convicted of. The other one, they wanted to convict me. So I've had that over my head. I promise you, anytime I got pulled over, I've had police contact. Anytime I got pulled over, it would I'd just be shaking. Like, this is it. I'm going to lose everything that I have built and not be able to go back on my own account on how I want to go back. Because the plan was go back, have a brand new car paid off. Not a brand new car, but a car paid off, right? Yeah. Have some money in the bank, so if they put me in the prison, I'm not coming up to nothing again, so I'm going to end up in the same position. And I was scared because it was so many years. Right. So I was like, they're going to throw the book at me for sure. Well, I ended up feeling really stagnant in that relationship, and something came over me, and one day I was like, I don't think this is working. And we were both devastated, like both of us. It was one of those things that I'd never, it was just such a mutual thing. But it was just kind of sad at that point. So I left. I started packing up my stuff, and I said, in my mind, I was like, you know what, fuck it. Maybe it's time for me to go back. Because I used to tell him, you're the only reason I'm here. Right. Like, I'm only staying here for you. And I guess fear, if I want to be honest. Sure. But then one day I was at work and I was going through this big breakup. Like, I lost 12 pounds that week because it was so devastating. But push comes to shove, I decided I'm going to come back. And how I did was I was at work one day talking to myself because I'm a little crazy. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to go back. And my boss says, oh, what, you got a little something going on? So I don't know what he was like some psychic pulls me in. He says, you go back. So what I did was I hired a lawyer, called a lawyer, and I paid off the fine for the AP&P that I ran on. And I said, fuck it. And then my mom said, I'll come get you. Because I had 5 years clean, a little over that. And she said, all right, I'll come get you. And I had it all lined up, had it all worked out. And I thought for sure I was coming back to go to prison. They gave me love. My lawyer got me the first things over with, the probation I left on. The other charge they dropped it down a little bit. Me coming back, they were like, most people, they were shocked. Like, you're not coming back arrested. It's been 12 years, and I came back on my own accord. And they said, well, why are you back? And I said, because this is what I need to do. I've had that hanging over my head for all those years. Yeah. So in November, I had the parents come pick me, and what I had built up, I got the car, I got some money in the bank. I paid the $5,000 to the state here in Utah for the first thing, paid the lawyer for the other thing, and I was just kind of hoping. But my expectation coming back was I was going to go to prison. Right. So I had a little book with all my passwords, and I stopped all my automatic payments, had my mom all hooked up. I'm like, this is what you're going to have to do, because she's never really been part of that. And then now here I am. So, but what I didn't know coming back, I always look for the kids, but one night I said, I'm going to try again. So I put my oldest son's name into Facebook, and I found something finally, because he was never on Facebook before that. And I found something that night. I was like, fuck, is that him? And I didn't want to like fuck up some other kid's life. Like, hey, are you my kid? Like, so I don't want to fuck him up. So I just said, is your birthday January 12th, 2004? And he texts back immediately. It said, Mom.
Whoa.
And I go,
Looking for you too, bro.
and I still didn't want to be like, yeah, it's me. So I was still like, do you have a little brother? And he goes, yeah, his name's Tony, and he was born this day. And and I goes like, yeah, it's me. And so it just started from there, and we started talking. And my son has his own story that's pretty amazing. He kind of has a similar story to me, to be honest, minus some of the drugs and stuff. But so I started talking to him, and I never thought I'd see my kids again. I thought I'd be on my deathbed and never see them again ever in my life. And he has been nothing but he was living in Idaho. And of course me, I'm like, oh, I just want him now. Like, I just want him. But I understand I'm trying to be respectful of the boundaries and how he might feel. And I don't want to push him too hard, and I don't want to scare him. But he is just so open and compassionate. And he didn't, not for a second, he's never said a negative thing. And I said, if you ever want to come back, I was living with my mom. I said, you ever want to come back? Like, I'll make something happen for you. Because he was kind of in this situation himself. He'd been around different houses. He lived like 15 different places. And I said, you decide. So I drove up to Idaho and saw him. This is before I got my sentencing here for my charge, because I could leave the state. And he decided he wanted to give me a shot.
Wow.
So now he's living with me. My other son, he was a little bit slower, but he came over on yesterday, actually, and had dinner for him, technically to him, for the first time.
Really?
With his mom. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Reconciled to. So you, crazy story, Colorado, end up in California, and you're running around doing drugs, bad relationships. You got warrants in Utah hanging over your head. And so you decide to make a plan, save up money, come to Utah, turn yourself in, pay your stuff off.
Mm-hmm.
They give you love, no prison time, thank God, but you were ready for it if it were happening.
Yeah.
Reconciled to your family, and that's recovery, right?
And that is recovery.
So on recovery, I'm going to start going through some of these questions so that our viewers can kind of grasp, because, you know, all our stories, though they may vary, they're not unique. And I'm not trying to say you're not unique.
Well, of course.
Because mine, like, you're telling me my story. It's so crazy, though. Like, even like, you just started telling a little bit of your son's story. He lived in 15 different places, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But recovery is something also that's very similar to what needs to be done, and this whole person change thing, and what you're kind of starting with too. So when did you grasp that, or what are your reviews really on what recovery is now? Being reconciled to your I mean, that's awesome.
Right.
Just yesterday.
I want to mention just one thing about my son, and then I can answer that question. So my son, a few months into living, he's been with me since April, and he has memories from then, from being with me. Wow. He remembers it, and he was so little, but he's really quite smart. I just want to mention this because I think this is also something that's going to be a big part of recovery. Is sometimes you're thinking about just taking your life. Yeah. So my son told me it took him 3 months to tell me, or 2 months or whatever. And then he said, Mom, I just want you to know. And he started crying. And he said, the night that you text me, I was going to kill myself.
Oh, jeez.
And he said that he said he had it all planned out. He hadn't told nobody, and he was going to do it. And he said, and then all of a sudden he got my message.
Praise God.
So recovery to me now is really, for one, you have to keep going.
Is recovery just staying sober and clean?
Absolutely not. I had to change how I viewed the world. I had to change how I viewed myself, because I looked at myself as such a failure, so hopeless, so worthless. But then there's that other side of me that's super egotistical, because I'm this great chef and I'm this and that. So I have these two conflicting personalities. But until I viewed things and really simplified it, instead of trying to control it, the minute I stopped trying to control what I couldn't control, then things started falling into place. So recovery to me is a whole body change. It's a whole mindset. And it does take the physical, the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah. So you're starting a program with working out and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I got a little sentence here. It says, what are your thoughts on combining physical exercise and mental health support in addiction recovery programs, like what we do at Recovering Addict?
Yeah, well, as you know, working out and just getting that, you get a physical high.
Sure.
When you're getting it, you're getting it, you know what I mean? And you feel that. But the benefits of working out, just I don't know how to explain it. It just brings out the everything feels good. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to explain it, because when you're getting high, you wake up in the morning, you feel like shit, right? Or if you wake up, if you stayed up the whole night,
Yeah.
and the sun comes up and you feel like shit. But when you work out the next morning, you feel fucking great, right?
Yeah.
Or you feel like shit a little bit after your workout. Sometimes it depends on how hard you hit it. But
That's the good
I don't.
shit.
All I know is I know. I started this with when I did addicts athletes
Yep.
in when I was in prison, and that's what gave me the idea, because keeping yourself busy, keeping yourself doing something that's good for your body, and good for your mental health, because it makes you feel good when you're straining yourself, and when you're getting to starting to see the effects,
Results.
instead of seeing yourself suck up more and more,
Yeah.
and
Weak.
the picking yourself and
Yeah.
feeling all dirty and
Unhealthy.
nasty and greasy.
Straight unhealthy.
Yeah. When you feel that, you actually feel more. I was going to say more better. That's not bad. You feel better working out all the time. It just getting that.
Self-esteem.
Yeah, just
self-confidence.
being active. That's why I call it
Yeah.
actively sober, because it doesn't have to be working out. You just have to be active.
Yeah.
You just have to do something.
Yep.
Like we just go hiking. We just go see the world. You get to see what the world is like, instead of seeing like I said on when I did my interview with April Baker. I was talking to the guys in the prison. I was like, what would you rather see, the cement walls all around you, or this? And we looked at the mountains and the sky and the trees, and just it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You're wide open. It's the world. You're not just walls.
There's a program out in Philly, near Philly, and we're friends with them now. And they came out to Utah for the summit, and I took them hiking, because it's flat out east, right?
Yeah, I
Compared
know.
to here.
I'm from Philly.
Oh, okay. You know what's up. I took them to the top of this mountain. Yeah, go Phillies Monday night, huh? I took them to the top of this mountain just right over here, and the one, I was like, what do you think? And I was asking the one guy, he's like, I always thought I could just visit these places on the computer, because it's,
Right.
who cares, and he goes, but now that I'm here, it's undescribable. And that was good for his soul,
Yeah. That's part of recovery. I
Yeah.
think that enjoying the simple things in life is really the biggest part. Addicts overcomplicate everything. Everything's chaos. Everything's
Yep.
crazy. You're not logically thinking.
Yep. So, what does a better life look like to you now, and how do you maintain it?
I mean, my better life is definitely seeing myself as well, for one, just human.
Mm.
Before it was, I looked at feeling that hopeless and such a failure because you had such this bright life ahead of you, and then to feel all of that, and then just to keep eating that. Now recovery to me is definitely just realizing that, for one, I'm human.
Yeah.
Two, I can forgive myself for my mistakes. And then just being loving to others, I think, is most important. Because if I'm getting angry with other people, it's just, I need to be patient with myself, and being able to express that to another human being rather than eat it all
Yeah.
and shove it down further and just make it a bomb waiting to explode.
How do you? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, my better life, better than what I had for the last 20-something years.
Yeah.
I could be a homeless guy on the street. That's a better life than what I had. you
Yeah.
know? But what I have now, with what my family has given me, my brother and my sister-in-law, I have family again,
Real family.
I have a family. I have a house. I have a good job. And I have that connection with people. And that's one of the things that we do with our program. We have people connected.
Because what is the
So-
opposite of addiction? Connection.
Yeah, connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never heard it put that way,
yeah,
but I
it-
like that.
We're all tangled up. Yeah, but one of the biggest things is if you have somebody to talk to that has been through it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's just a phone call or a text, just to talk to somebody, just to, look, I'm going through some shit. What would you do? Or I'm going through some shit. I need you right now.
Sometimes just
I'll jump up and go see him.
yeah, and being on both sides of that, right? Even like needing somebody to talk to. They don't even have to say anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to be able to say it out loud and get it off their chest and have somebody look at you and go,
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all it takes a lot of times.
And it's a big step for somebody to say, hey, I need somebody to talk to.
Oh, yeah, huge.
Because
Or I need help.
I never did that. I got out of prison and I would, on the jump, I was back up to the top doing my thing.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, that's all I was doing was trying to prepare myself to go back.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just trying to get enough money so I have money for my books, so I could
Well, jails,
do my
institutions, and
spreads,
death.
so I could do my spreads,
That's it.
buy my protein so I could work out.
Yeah.
That's all my goal was, so I could go back to see the fellas.
Yep. So, how do you handle triggers in difficult moments now, and especially if those moments threaten your sobriety?
For me, my triggers were worse when I was first getting clean. Thanksgiving is my 6th year clean. So one way definitely is I really try not to hang out in the barbershop.
Yeah.
A
lot of people know that the barbershop
you get a
metaphor
haircut.
is if you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. Meaning if you go to the bar, you're going to drink.
Yep.
You go to the dope house, you're going to get high.
Right.
Don't be a dumbass.
No.
I actually I've had a few triggers. It seems like me being clean, I find more bags of dope than I ever did before.
That's funny.
The few times I have found it, it's usually a large amount.
Wow.
Of course, it looks like it's the best. And then there was only one time that I was like, it was like for a half a second, I was like, and then what I do now is I play the tape through.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And why would I want to give another second of my life that would just take me all the way back. Now I have so much to live for.
Mhm.
But not only that, when a trigger comes, I just try to do something else with myself.
Yep.
I can't say I get as many triggers now as I do. I have had a few. Now, that is actually coming back. Actually, I do have something to say to this. Coming back was a trigger period.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just driving through the state, I had my mom drive. Once we got to the border, I had my mom drive my car because if they pulled us over, I'm going to jail.
So
Because I hadn't been seen yet by the judge. So, and then having old friends like, oh, Jen's back. So I was really careful who I let know that I came back. Very specific.
So you separate yourself from the people you know that will take you down.
That's number one.
Playing the tape if you come across high-risk situations,
Yes.
right? Because I've come across, some dope and here and there, over the last 4 years. Not much.
Right.
But the thought goes through my head is like, I could get away with it. And it's not like
Mhm.
purposely. It's just,
Natural.
it's what we do. It's what we
Just
that's
just
how
this one time. I just want it one more time.
do it one more time real
Yeah,
quick.
it'll be
Nobody know.
fine.
Then I'm like, no, I could sell it, make some money
Right.
real quick. No.
You literally have to be like,
Yep.
That was more of my addiction, was selling the
Was
dope
Oh, yeah.
and being the man. And
yeah.
being in the
the fame and fortune.
being in the being loved by everybody and being in that.
Oh, hold on,
in
this
that
is important.
lifestyle. That lifestyle was what I was addicted to. I was
power.
more
Right.
Power
into
trip.
It is a
Yeah.
power trip. And then you realize you really had nothing when you're sitting, like
And
in your
yeah.
case, in the prison, and
Yeah.
you're like, really, what power do I have now?
So in what ways, I know you're starting your actively sober.
Yeah.
What's another way that you guys are giving back to the community? Obviously, right now you're giving back to a large community here. Just by sharing your story is something, right? What are you guys doing to support others in their recovery?
I definitely put myself out there as far as if anybody needs help, they can definitely contact me. There are some classes because of the probation that I had to do or I'm having to do. So I'm actually in some women's classes. So I try to spread the word that way. And then you can help. The shortest distance between two people is a smile. So when people look down upon people, they see at 7-Eleven that might be begging for $1, probably because they do want to buy some
Beer,
drugs or
yeah.
something. Don't look at them like they're nothing. They're still human and they have a story too.
And there are brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Really,
They
you know
are.
what I mean? Yeah,
They are.
I agree with that.
and me, I just besides the program, I just have like friends will get a hold of me and they're still getting high or whatever, and I tell them, you can come talk to me.
Let's see what Carolina Root says. He says, for me, a trigger is a decision. I created boundaries in my mind, and I won't entertain thoughts that may lead to action and another bad experience. A structured environment has been very helpful. Yeah.
I'm with that. That's you have to put some structure in yourself. Living in chaos, there's no structure.
Yeah, none.
I
like
That's,
that.
that's what I like about when I moved in with my brother. He gave me rules.
Right.
Here's what's going on. Don't fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I got the job, and there's rules there, and there's structure. I got to get up early. I got to get there. I got to be there 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
And do the work.
We
you know?
should be. We
And
should
I-
be those
and-
kind of people.
And I bust my ass, and I love it.
Yeah. People can. I strive to be that in recovery.
Right.
Somebody can call me. I'm reliable.
Yeah.
100%. I tell somebody a week from now I will be there at 10 a.m. If I'm not there at 10 a.m., they're going to call and check and see if I got in a car accident or something severe, because that's not like me.
Yeah.
Not only am I going to be there at 10 a.m., I'm probably going to be bugging you a half hour early.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
We are people now that live honestly. We are dependable. We are more than dependable. Like, what's ever above reliable, that's what that's what we become in recovery, you know. What would you guys say to somebody out there that may be watching, or somebody that tunes in a little later, if they're struggling right now? Say they're watching this, they're in recovery, maybe they're a year clean, maybe they haven't been clean yet. and They're
Right.
struggling. What do you tell them?
Oh, the first thing is you gotta for one, you gotta love you. I don't want to say you gotta love yourself. You have to accept yourself. I think acceptance is the biggest thing. Accept that you have a problem, that there are issues underlying beneath that problem. For somebody that hasn't put the drugs down, there's an underlying issue that is not the drugs. The drugs is just how we cope with it.
Yeah, that's the what do we say? Drugs aren't the problem; they're the solution.
They are the solution.
problem that
I'm
we
the
have.
problem.
Yeah,
When
I've heard
I-
people say, "I've never had to deal with my alcoholism until I quit drinking."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that because it's so
And then
true.
Alcoholism, you get rid of the alcohol, what are you left with?
The ism.
The ism. I think we talked about that in
Yeah.
the group that one day.
Yeah, I'm definitely my own problem, my own thinking.
I was the biggest problem in my life.
Yeah.
And until these people, and a few people come to mind, relatives and not, the victim mentality. You know, we do
I had that so bad.
have an uncontrolled amount of our life in the beginning till we
Right.
get to, a good teenage year. But then from that moment on,
Mm-hmm.
we are responsible for every decision we make after that.
Yeah.
And we can't play this victim anymore. You know what I mean? And I think gaining that is another understanding if you're out there struggling. Are you playing this victim? Poor me. Because you
Right.
got it. Recovery is a dichotomy, and that's what makes it really hard, is you can't do it alone.
Oh no.
People need people, but you have to do it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so
it makes,
true.
And it makes perfect sense too.
Yeah.
It really does.
Because at the end of the day, it's on me.
Yeah.
And I did play the victim for so long, but then I was kind of, but honestly, when we're playing the victim, we're also perpetrating against ourselves.
Oh,
Because then we're just punching ourselves in the face like, you're shit,
yep.
you fucked up, oh, you did it again.
Such a piece of, yeah.
Oh, yeah, just that
Abs-
negative self-talk. You just got to say, listen, you got to tell yourself that, for one, you have to realize you're worth it. If I can go all those years and never think that I would ever see the light of my children's eyes again, and for it to turn around and be that, I tell you, I promise I never gave up.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I thought I gave up, I didn't give up. And I thought I was weak, but I wasn't. How do we get through these crazy scenarios being on drugs and on the street, and anyone out there listening, without being strong, even though we feel we're so weak?
Yeah.
Can I comment on that? What that
Yeah.
guy just said? Ask for help. Listen to those who love you.
Yeah.
My brother, after my dad died, we were at the funeral. My brother told me, we're all we have left. We're all we have left. It's just me and you. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, we have all of our kids and
Yeah.
or all my nieces and nephews. There's a bunch of them. And they're awesome, but all we have left is us.
Yeah.
And so I had to listen to the person that was closest to me,
Yeah.
and he said, "Quit fucking up. Quit going back. We need you here."
So when in recovery or during our addictions, there's a lot of stuff we think we like, right?
Right.
There's stuff we don't know about ourselves. What have you learned? What's something new you've learned about yourself being sober, like, and clean, and on a path of moral standards and stuff?
Well, that like to actually answer that question and the victim thing, it's not all AP&P's fault. For real, I kept blaming AP&P for losing my jobs, for my football career, my acting career. I blamed it all on AP&P.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, they fucked it up, but I kept fucking up my life as well. You know, I kept going down that road because of that. But I blamed them. But now, look, AP&P ain't fucking with me.
No.
Because I'm doing good.
And I know probation officers now on this side of recovery, right?
Right.
And they're out to help. Believe
Yeah.
it or not, there are some pricks out there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But
I know all of
Some
them.
of them really are.
80-90% of those dudes out there, they genuinely want to help.
Right.
You know, and they give chances and all that kind of stuff.
I saw that myself. The one thing I learned about myself is that I used to tell myself I'm so weak and such a failure, but really I was so strong to go through that.
Yeah.
And then I learned that, you know, this is the first time I've really shared my story with anyone besides someone close. So I haven't told I've never told my story in any other recovery setting. This was the first time.
How's that feel?
Well, I
That's
felt like it was a
vulnerability.
lot,
Yeah.
you know. I'm sure I probably talked more than I needed to, but I mean, to get the gist of the whole story. So, you know, maybe next time I might be a little shorter version.
Oh, it's all good.
The whole story mattered.
Yeah.
And I learned that, you know,
One person out there might.
Yeah.
the biggest
decide
thing
not
I
to
learned,
kill
guys,
themselves tonight.
right? And the biggest thing that if I can do it, anyone can. And if my kids can come back to me for like mothers, there's a lot of mothers that lose their kids, and there's a lot of parents that do because of addiction, and domestic violence is a big one too.
DCSF or not. Sometimes 'cause
DCFS or not.
I bailed.
Yeah, so there's different ways you can lose people close to you, but I think just most importantly, no matter what, you have to keep going. I don't care how many times you pick the needle up, or you pick the bottle up, or you did this or you did that. You could just keep going and find. Really got to dig deep. But once you find it, then you just hold on to it by continuing to love yourself. Tell yourself, like, look how far you've come, even if
Yeah.
you felt like it was nothing.
I learned this from a really wise guy one time. He said, "Stop being a pussy."
Yeah.
His name's Anthony Draver. He's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You put
Stop being a pussy.
you put that on the wall that day, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
said,
don't be a pussy.
Yeah, don't be a pussy. Nobody's in there getting it.
Yeah.
This guy worked me out so quick. I was like, damn, these guys are crazy. I was thinking, holy shit, I don't know if I'm coming back.
So, what are your future goals, personal and long term? And what about advocating in recovery? I know you on your program thing.
Yeah.
Are you with him on doing this stuff?
Yeah, I'm gonna. I have a lot that I think I could offer to them as far as because they're working on some sober living houses and things, which will be a good thing here. Sober living obviously is where I started my recovery, which it's a U program. I mean, they ain't forcing you to be there. And then advocation for me is, I mean, I'm the type I make friends everywhere I go. So for people come to me in my life that need me, and that's something I learned in recovery is that the ones that flock to me are the ones I'm supposed to help, even if it's just a small message.
Sure.
And then future goals. I mean, I'm a chef, so at the end of the day, I'm trying to start some kind of
You should start
catering
applying for like
company.
those Gordon Ramsay things.
my mom. I actually
That would be
could have went on a few years ago in the pandemic, but I wasn't working currently as a chef, so the rest they wouldn't let me go on. But I did get it was Guy's Grocery Games, Guy Fieri. But I actually,
applying for
that's
all that.
funny. I was just looking at Hell's
That'd be sick.
Kitchen casting call.
Yeah.
So they're filled up for 2024 and 2025.
Oh, I'll bet.
Are-
That probably
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna apply for every one of them once I'm done with probation.
do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it.
Awesome. So, people that have watched this here, there, what's one message you would like your these viewers to take from that?
I mean, again, mine is never give up because I never thought I'd be sitting here with everything in my life, and everything has a complete circle. There is a purpose in all things in life, whether they be good or bad. But when you're living in the moment, the thing you got to remember is that this moment too shall pass. So if you can get past these hard times and you really have to learn to you can be selfless, but you kind of have to be a little selfish in recovery.
100%.
And I'm not a selfish person, so I'm learning that. And that's what's been keeping me clean.
And the selfishness isn't selfish at the end of the day because it takes.
Right.
You got to take care of yourself to take care of anybody.
Yeah, you're definitely number one.
So how can people find you? How can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I don't have like a hashtag. I am on Facebook. Jennifer St. Clair is what it's going to be under. I am on Instagram, Chef Gen 5. I guess those are two ways you can get a hold of me. as far as if you want to DM me or something, and then we can kind of go from there.
And what about you?
And also through Actively Sober. Actively Sober, we have on just a Facebook page right now, and my personal page.
Perfect.
But I do everything for the programs on the Actively Sober Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, you can go back in after this live too, and on YouTube and Facebook, and start posting your stuff in the comments.
Yeah, I need to.
Okay.
I people keep telling me about making a website, and all. I've been 20 years in prison. I don't know how to do all that stuff. Some generous, nice feller showed me how to do the Swift filing, so I could get my nonprofit status. But besides that, I don't know how to do most of the other stuff. But I'm trying to find actual physical building so I can do exactly what you're doing, because that was my idea. I don't know why you stole it before me, but I want to have a gym, but I also want to have like heavy bags and things like that, so that people with mental health problems can come and take out some frustrations.
Yeah.
Even, everybody wants to take out some frustrations, right? So yeah, I want to have heavy bags. I want to have maybe a ring too. I don't know about how far we'd have to go for that, but I want a gym. I want people to work out.
Hell yeah.
Because now it's getting cold. It's not going to be really ideal weather for hiking and stuff like that, because most of our stuff is outdoors right now.
Well, let's see what we can keep working together and
Yeah.
make this thing happen.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, that's 8:16. So we always end with the serenity prayer.
Okay.
So ready?
Yep.
God,
God, grant me the serenity
to
accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen.
Amen.
And all y'all out there, thank you so much for watching. Share this out. That's the best way to support us. We're a free program, and we want to remain free so people can have instant support, bam, right now. So until next time, do not put yourself in a high-risk situation. Stay strong, work your programs, and remember, we recover better
Together.
Together.